Hello, and welcome to this research on the presence of microplastics in local streams. As more and more plastic pollutants are put into the environment each year, the importance for microplastic research grows even more. This is especially so because microplastics research is incredibly new and limited. For this reason, we were able to collect samples from two different site locations, one being the Third River and the second being the Raritan River, as shown in these pictures here. The Third River is less of an urban area as opposed to the Raritan River, which was taken in the heart of New Brunswick, which is a city. And there are two pictures of the streams here as well. To do this, we used a 212 micrometer sieve and a 125 micrometer sieve and poured the sample through the sieves to collect the microplastics, which was then observed on a filter paper which had a 7 micrometer pore size. And using that, we were then able to look at it underneath a microscope to observe the microplastics. We initially hypothesized that the 125 micrometer sieve would collect more microplastics than the 125 micrometer sieve. In addition, there would be more microplastics found within the water bodies that were more urban and less in the more rural areas. So moving on, here were our results. So if you look at the first table, we could see that for the Third River, it had less microplastics than the Raritan River as a whole. And the 125 sieve had more microplastics than the 212 micrometer sieve. This did support the hypothesis. And moving on, we were able to use data from the Census Bureau on the population density of both of these two towns. And although they're very similar, there was a higher population density in New Brunswick than in Clifton, which was the number of people per square mile. And for New Brunswick, it was 9,727.1, while Clifton was only 7,454.4. This data is also reflected over here in this graph, so you can see visually the number of confirmed and confirmed observed microplastics and non-confirmed microplastics. It's important to differentiate between the two, where observed microplastics are confirmed microplastics that can be seen underneath the microscope, and non-confirmed microplastics cannot be easily identified, but were still potentially microplastics. It's important to include both data to consider our findings. To conclude, we were able to tell that the smaller pore size did show more microplastics, although it did have more organic material in it. In addition, the more urbanized areas also had more microplastics. These conclusions were very helpful because there is limited research on microplastics in rivers in the US as a whole, and no research done on microplastics in New Jersey rivers. And it's very interesting to see that in these streams, there were microplastics, especially as some of them are runoffs and have major basins for New Jersey water systems. To conclude, I think that it would be very beneficial to continue doing research on this and to determine the effect that urbanization has on the prevalence of microplastics. So looking to see if in these more urban areas, and as you increase urbanization on a particular river or stream, how it affects it. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you learned something beneficial. Have a nice day.